In this episode, Michael Madison and Linda Nelson, founders of the distribution company Indie Rights, will demystify the process of securing a great distribution deal. They'll cover how to find the right distributor, key red flags to watch out for when signing a deal, and what to expect from a distributor relationship in 2025. Whether you're distributing your first feature or have been burned by bad deals in the past, this episode will be packed with crucial insights.
Hello.
Hi, it's great to be here. Always an honor to get a chance to talk to filmmakers. It makes our life a lot easier the more that filmmakers know about distribution before they need it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a sentiment that's been echoed quite a bit over the last 2 days. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourselves and Indie Rights and what you currently do?
All right. I'm Michael Madison, Linda's partner. We've been making films or in the film business since about the year 2000, I think. We first started working together on an IMAX film called In Sync Bigger Than Life, and that played in a lot of museums and some entertainment centers all over the world. We were executive producers on that, and we also did the theatrical release for that. So that was kind of how we got our feet wet, and that was a $5 million film, and that was our first film to work on. We thought would be easy to raise money for projects going forward, and we soon learned that was not going to be the case. Our next film, we were trying to make a motocross film, and we just couldn't raise the money, and we learned a lot about contracts when we worked on the NSYNC film, and some things we didn't do correctly with the band, so we had to kind of start over and quickly get day jobs so that we could continue to try to make films or do something in the film business. After that, we worked for 12 years at Public Storage, and from there we really had to start over. So we did that during the day, and then at night we worked on our independent film. We made an independent film that we used credit cards to finance. Both of our films did that. And when we did that, we got into Dances with Films and met a lot of other filmmakers that needed help with distribution. So we went to the American Film Market, that's in Santa Monica, back then it was. And back then you could get a table out by the swimming pool. And if you go early enough in the morning, you could get a table and you just could camp there. And then Linda would go upstairs and talk to buyers. And I think we had 5 or 8 films, try to sell them. And we slowly, over time, started getting more and more films. We made another film called Delivered. And the companies finally started taking off when digital finally started taking off. And that's where we are today. We are distributing a lot of films, and we enjoy it.
Yep. Fantastic. And can you guys tell me a little bit about how Indie Rights is different from other distributors? Because I do think you guys are quite unique in terms of what you do, how you handle projects with filmmakers, how transparent you are about everything as well, which is a breath of fresh air in comparison to some other distributors. So it'd be great if you can talk a little bit about yourself as a company.
Well, I think in some ways we are very much like a traditional distributor, and in other ways we are more like some of the more newer high-tech technology companies. We're kind of a hybrid between the two, which is interesting. We believe that it's really still important to have a personal relationship with our filmmakers, and so that's the kind of the basis of our company. We really do have a personal relationship with our filmmakers. We do coaching with our filmmakers. We teach marketing to our filmmakers, and we maintain that throughout the life of their film with us. But some of the things that are quite different are that because we started as filmmakers, and when we first made our films, we couldn't find a distributor that we thought had a deal that was fair. And so that was part of our motivation to creating our own distribution company. So one of the things that we thought was very unfair was all of the expenses that traditional distribution companies charge. And so our deal, and we have the exact same deal today that we had 15, 20 years ago when we started. And that is that we pay our filmmakers 80% of every dollar that's earned by their film. And we never charge expenses at all for anything. We believe that out of our 20%, we ought to be able to cover our expenses. And so that's what we do. And so we manage our business very leanly and do it in a way that allows us to not have to charge our filmmakers expenses. And so we, as I said, pay our filmmakers 80%. We don't charge expenses. And we also don't believe in holding people hostage. A lot of traditional distributors will have very long term when they ask filmmakers to sign a contract. It might be 5, 10, 15 years. And so we thought, well, that's very unfair too, because if people are really happy with how you're conducting your business and the job that you're doing for them, they're going to want to stay with you, right? So our initial term is only 3 years. And then if you're not happy, you can leave, but nobody does because we pay our filmmakers on time. We're very transparent, and we give really good detailed reporting. And that's what filmmakers want and need. And so that keeps our filmmakers happy. I mean, we can count on, 1 or 2 hands the number of people that have left in 15 years. And we have over now 1,500 films.
That's fantastic to hear. And that's one of the things that I love about you guys is the not having those expense costs, because I think the uncapped marketing costs is this black hole that just sucks all the money from filmmakers and puts it right into pockets of someone else.
It's not just expenses. There's this practice of dangling this carrot of an MG in front of people, and a lot of times that MG is all you're going to get. So say you have a $150,000 film and you get an MG for 20 grand and you never see another penny, you're going to be very, very unhappy. The other thing is that an MG is actually a loan that you have to pay back to the distributor with interest. And so you're starting your distribution journey in the hole and not seeing any revenue come in for a while, or maybe never. So that whole concept of MGs, we've never believed in, and we've always found that filmmakers are always better with a straight revenue share deal. Unless if they offer you an MG equal to your budget, take it.
Absolutely. And I think
what filmmakers don't realize is that the bulk of most films don't make their money back. Somewhere between 10, 15% of films will recoup. The rest will not. And that's just a fact of our business. So you have to do it because you love it, and you have to keep doing it. So eventually you have a body of work that can get you attention.
Absolutely. And in a moment, I'd love to dive into, a good distribution deal versus a bad distribution deal. And we can dive into more details around some of the things that we just said. But perhaps I'd love to start off with a question, because a lot of our audience are currently developing films. They're still in the early stages, perhaps. There's some who are ready to distribute, I see already in the chat. But a lot of filmmakers are currently in the stage of developing their films. And I'm wondering, with distribution in mind, what should they already start thinking about in terms of the assets that they will need to deliver to a distributor when their film is finished? Because I find that there's a lot of filmmakers who go, oh, I didn't know I was going to need that. So I was just wondering if you can outline some of those key elements.
Yeah, closed captions. You have to have closed captions. That's the requirement. A poster that's layered, a layered poster. But I think the poster, once you have a really great film, the poster is the most important part of the film after you have a good film, because no one's going to click on. You have to have something that's clickbait. So you need something that's going to catch people's eyes when you're on platforms. File formats are a 422 HQ. It needs to be stereo. And a lot of times people they may export their file and not realize that they're exporting it mono. So both, left and right, it has to go up and down. And the easiest place to look at that is when music's playing in your movie. Let's see what else. Stills, we'll need stills. when you make your still for it's used for the background, try to find a still with the actor or the subject on the right side of the screen, because on the left side, that's usually where the text is for the platforms. Um, you need a trailer. The trailer needs to be it's like G-rated for a lot of the platforms. You can't have nudity in the trailer. You can't have cursing, excessive violence. You can't have somebody's head explode. It needs to be under 2 minutes. That needs to be stereo also. And ProRes 422HQ.
Yeah. What about the sort of any legal requirements in terms of release forms, contracts, things like that?
You have to have all that, and you have to have all your music rights. And when you sign with us, you're signing that you have all that.
So we don't require that you actually give that to us, but it does say in your contract that you have all of those rights secured. So it's really, really important. Oh, I know another thing that's important now, and we can talk a little later about why, is that you want to make sure when you're doing your sound that you get clear dialogue tracks, because now we have the opportunity to distribute globally, and we need to make sure that we can have M&E tracks, which is just your music and effects tracks, separate from dialogue, so that your film can be dubbed into foreign languages. And we'll talk more about that later.
Okay, great. And the final bit on this, when people are currently in development, before we move into the sort of more kind of current distribution aspects, what do you guys think currently makes a film that is marketable? What are the types of films that you guys get that you go, yes, this is perfect? Because we've also heard from some distributors where they say, we sometimes get projects that we think are really, really good, but we just can't market them. And therefore, we just can't actually turn them into something that's commercial. So I'm wondering, aside from the fact that the film just has to be engaging and has to be good, are there certain aspects right now that a film can have which will make you say absolutely yes, this film, we can market it and we can make, good revenue for this film?
Right now, we are not taking foreign films that are in another language, because we just cannot market a film that's not in English. It's really, really difficult. English in the United States is the core audience. I think it's 90-something% of all streaming right now for us is coming from the United States. So it needs to be in English. We turn down a lot of really beautiful films that are made in other countries just because once they sign with us and we put it out, they're going to be very disappointed in the numbers. So if you are in another country,
Should get it dubbed.
Dubbed in English, or a lot of times people make a film in English just because what the market is right now. They'll make the film in English. And then what works for marketing for us, a really good film that's it doesn't always have to have a star in it, but it needs to look like a studio film because the audience is expecting something that's high quality. Sound needs to be good. The image needs to be really good. And just because you're using a red camera, you've got to still light. A lot of times lighting, a person's face may be dark, and just because they didn't put a little bit of light in the face. We look for that when we watch films. Also, subject matter. We would like, if you're going to make a film about skateboarding, you better be in the culture of skateboarding, and you better know everything about skateboarding, because later on when you give it to a distributor, they may not know about that subject matter, and you need to be an expert in that subject matter so that you can market it to that to skateboarders or whoever it is.
Being able to identify some kind of niche audience, even if it's just a subtext of your movie, is really, really important, because you have to start someplace. So we always, look for films that do have some type of subtext that can be marketed. And what you want to stay away from, we're seeing right now a lack of interest in docs again. It's funny because docs can go up and down in popularity. And the type of docs you want to stay away from are like biographies about your grandpa who was wonderful but died of cancer. You have to be really, really careful. People want to be entertained these days. Ever since COVID, um, people want to be, they want escape films. They want films that take them out of themselves and away from what's going on in their lives and be able to actually escape or be uplifted. So you want to, try and stay away from that. I see a huge, number of films about drug addiction and even suicide and stuff. And while those are important topics, they're not popular, and so you want to make sure that you have a movie that people want to be entertained by and are willing to sit through. And pacing, I think, is really, really important. These days, you better have something happen right in the very beginning of your movie, right? Because most most of the distribution now is on AVOD, and if you do not engage your audience right away from the beginning of the movie, they're going to bounce out and be gone, and you're not going to earn any revenue on that, and people aren't going to stick with your movie. So it's really, really important that you
And since
engage.
everything's going towards AVOD, you want to make an edit of your film that can pass for like a YouTube channel, because there's a lot of money to be made in YouTube, and you don't want to not take advantage of that. So I always tell a filmmaker to make a director's cut, which may have some violence or some sex, and then you make a like a network cut, like they used to do for ABC television. They would right before somebody's about to have sex, maybe they embrace, and then you cut to the next scene. Or if there's somebody doing drugs, you can. I've done this before where somebody's about to do the drugs and you cut to the next scene, so you can cut things out. The audience is still going to know what happened. Um,
So it's like
Absolutely.
taking that Alfred Hitchcock approach of not having to show every little detail of it.
yeah,
I think indie filmmakers have a tendency to want to be very edgy, and show all
and
of this
shocking.
stuff and shocking, and it's really going to limit, where your movie can be seen. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, have you seen any trends in terms of films that currently, perhaps last year, or you feel like this year, types of films that are doing really well because there is a real gap in the market for them? For example, we know that dramas are currently, there's always a lot of dramas and there isn't a huge demand for them. So the market is usually very, very oversaturated. But for example, in the last year or so, I've seen a lot of things going around that, for example, on Tubi, films with a predominantly Black female cast have been doing really, really well because was a real gap in the market for those types of films. And I'm wondering whether you've seen any similar trends of the types of films, perhaps on your in your company that are currently doing really well, and why that is.
I would say for the past couple of years, films, black films with a strong female lead, that's done very well for us. But right now, I would say the past 6 months, it's just all over the place. And I can't older films that did well, 5 years ago, all of a sudden now are top film again. So, and it's all different genres. It's horror films,
thrillers.
dramas, all types. So right now, I don't really know. Everything's doing very well. Documentaries right now are not doing well. I can tell you that. Unless it's a
Okay.
super, I have one that's a music doc that's doing very well, but I think there was a book that came out before, and so the movie's kind of piggybacking on the book that did so well.
Yeah, and I think it always helps to have a pre-existing audience
Yeah,
that's sort of attached to that film, which always helps. Or even having a real core audience, because I find that a lot of filmmakers, when you ask them who is this film for, the phrase that really scares me is when they say it's for everyone,
Oh, and
because it means that they don't know.
in our submission form, how many people say that? Oh, everyone would like this movie.
that means you don't know who it's for.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
really important to really think about who your audience is going to be. And it's interesting. The truth of the matter is that we have successes and failures in all genres. really a lot of what it's coming down to, and it's getting more and more so, is that filmmakers have got to embrace marketing. It's critical, and you cannot be successful as an independent filmmaker these days unless you are willing to get involved in the marketing and embrace it and learn about it and start early. I mean, because there's so much that you can do to prepare for marketing, even like all during production. People don't think about it, but every single person on your set, whether it's cast or crew, has a 4K camera in their pocket. And what we tell filmmakers to do is set up a place in the cloud where people can upload little videos that they're making, and just save all of those until after it's time to release your movie. Then you'll have all of this incredible material that you can use for promotion. And it's stuff that used to be like extras on your DVD, right? Interviews with the cast and crew, and you also can, save all of make sure you save all of your outtakes and those behind the scenes type of stuff, because that's all interesting. People are very interested in filmmaking, and you can really, build up an audience. And the other thing is that it's critical for people to have a YouTube channel. Everyone needs to have a YouTube channel, not to put their whole movie on, because that you want your distributor to take care of. But clips, interviews, everything about it, and every movie that you've ever made should be on there, because what filmmakers kind of fail to understand is that they are the brand. Their movie is an individual movie is not a brand. It's not like toothpaste or McDonald's where you want people to come back over and over again to the same movie. No, you want people to build up an audience for their body of work. So I mean, it's like if someone says there's a new Christopher Nolan movie out, you don't really care what it is. You're going to go see it because it's Christopher Nolan, right? And his body of work. So that's what people need to do. And so maybe the first time, your first movie, you won't have that many subscribers for your channel. But as you build your body of work, you will build an audience all there in one place. The biggest mistake marketing wise we see people make is to make individual profiles on every site for every movie. And the next thing you know,
Yes.
you have 30 or 40 profiles. No, for Instagram, for TikTok, for YouTube, it should be the filmmaker or your production company. And then only on Facebook should you have an individual movie page. Every place else, it should all be the filmmaker.
Absolutely. And I think one of the mistakes that I see a lot of filmmakers make is that they're using finite tactics in an infinite game, right? So that infinite game being they want to continue making movies in the filmmaker probably for the rest of their lives, but they're so focused on just promoting and marketing this one film and making this one film rather than just thinking of filmmaking as a journey where you're going to make many projects. Some of those are going to fail, some not, but to try and rather doing this, kind of build upwards, right? With every single film, grow your own pre-existing audience so that even if you're making a fiction film on a subject matter that nobody knows, people know you and your type of films, and therefore they will watch your next film. I would love to now dive a little bit further into the actual distribution deals and finding a distributor, perhaps. And I'm wondering whether you have any thoughts on currently, if there's someone here in the audience, they've got a film, how can they find a distributor that will be right for their project? How do they find them? How can they research and sort of audit whether that distributor is right for them?
I would say all filmmakers need to have an account on IMDb Pro, and IMDb Pro can tell you everything about a distributor. You can always look up somebody and see if they're full of it or if they're telling you the truth. IFTA is another place you can go to find distributors. If you have a horror film, maybe you would go and find other horror films that are similar to yours on IMDb, and then contact. One thing you want to do is you want to contact filmmakers that have been with the distribution company, and somebody that's been with the distribution company for over a year. And this is what Linda and I did when we first started out. And you call them up and you ask them about how their experience has been with the film. With the distributor, and they'll either tell you that they get paid and they see reports, or that that, whatever their experience is. When we started out, we called up a couple of producers and that we were thinking about signing with this distribution company, and they started crying on the phone, and they had to take the distributor to court to get their film back. So I think people will tell you the truth. Um, that's the best. That's the best way to do it. Also, Facebook groups. There's Facebook groups that talk about different distributors. But IMDb Pro is the best, and everybody needs to have that if you're going to make movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think these days when you go with a distributor that ends up being very scammy, it's sort of on you, because there is so much information out there that you could have gotten about that distributor before signing that contract. That I feel sorry for you, but also a little bit not, because you should have done the due diligence there, because it
Back
is so
in the day,
simple.
before the internet, there was no way to get information. But now there's so much information out there. And I think another thing that it can be helpful, and the next opportunity that's going to be easy for U.S. filmmakers is the American film market. I think every filmmaker ought to at least once experience a film market to understand the business of film. Because if you just go even on a 3-day pass or even a 1-day pass, it's not so expensive. And American film market is, thank God, moved back to the United States, or back to Los Angeles this year. Last year it was in Vegas and it didn't work out too well. But it's back in Century City this year at the Century Plaza Hotel. And filmmakers, if they go there, they will see, like 7 or 8 floors of this hotel. What happens at the film market is that they take the beds out of the rooms, and distributors like us, we have a whole hotel room, and we have all of our films available for people to see, and the buyers walk from room to room, from floor to floor. And that's how we meet buyers and get to show them our films. And so it's also an opportunity to filmmakers. They can go and stop by different distributors and see what their operation looks like. Because unfortunately, there are thousands of distributors, but I would say there's probably only about 500 that are like legitimate, real distribution companies, and a good number of those are not ones that you're going to make money with. So you want to make sure that you check them out. I mean, you want to make sure they're not just a mailbox, address. And I remember one time there was a company that I was considering doing business with, and I went and checked it out, and it was a mailbox, and it wasn't a real company. And so, I mean, it's very, just like there are bad film festivals, there are bad film distribution companies. So you can check it out. It's easy to check out things now.
The first part of the market is when the distributors are talking to buyers. So there's a lot of action, but you're probably not going to, there's a lot of things going on, but you're probably not going to be able to talk to a distributor. The last part of the market is probably the time you're going to be able to talk to a distributor. Yeah. But I think both are beneficial to the filmmaker. I think you need to do both.
And they also have very good conferences.
Yeah.
And panel discussions. And so and they have resources. They have location companies that do locations and for filming, and also different states will have booths that talk about their rebates and funding programs. So it's just a really great opportunity for people to learn about the business.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And now, say you found a distributor, and okay, you've done a bit of research and you think that they could be good, and they send over a contract. What are the key things that you need to take a look at? Because these contracts can sometimes feel a little bit cryptic to filmmakers. They don't quite understand what's there and what they're signing. What are the most important things that they need to consider, and what are the sort of good contracts versus bad contracts with those elements?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, you want to make sure that you ask to see a draft contract before you get into even too many conversations, because it's very easy for people to tell you how wonderful your film is and how great, it's going to be, and what a great job they're going to be. But the meat of it is the contract. And the contract is something that can tie you up and put you in a position where you never see a penny. So you want to make sure that you have a contract that is fair. A red flag, there are several red flags, and the first red flag is if somebody hands you a 35-page contract, I'd be worried because it means they are going to tie you up every which way to Sunday, and it's going to be impossible to get out of. So, and it also means that you better get a lawyer, to look at it. We were very careful to make a very simple agreement. We have like a 5-page agreement, written in fairly, normal English language, and it's very clear what the terms are. But a lot of these distribution contracts are filled with legalese and that go on and on and on and on. It's even really difficult to even try and read them. So the most important terms are the term of it, how long it is, and they're going to try and get the longest term possible. So it's not uncommon to see a contract ask for 10 years or 15 years. I've even seen some that ask for perpetuity, i.e., they're taking the rights to your film forever. Okay, so you want to make sure that you keep the term as short as possible. It's very hard to find a company that's less than 5 years. Ours is 3, but there are other companies that are 3 years. So you want to make sure you have a reasonable term. The second thing is the percentage, of commission that company is going to take. And before I go further with that, let's just explain the difference. There are different types of companies. We're an actual distributor. A distributor is actually going to place your film directly on platforms or on platforms that they own. We actually own an AVOD platform of our own that we put our films on. And then we're direct with Amazon and Tubi and Pluto. And so we're a real distributor. Second type of business is what's called a sales agent. And a sales agent, that's all they do is sell. They're not a technology company. They're not going to encode and deliver your film. But what they're going to do is take your film. They're going to ask for a big percentage, usually between 25 and 35%. And then they're going to take your film and give it to someone like us or go to a film market and sub-license it out to another real distributor, right? So they're basically a real middleman that's going to take between 25 and 35% of your film. And then whoever they give it to, like us, we're going to take our 20%. So they're gone, 50%'s already gone. They might license it to another company that's going to take 30%, then maybe 60 or 70%'s gone. So that you have to be sure that if you're working, that you're working with, if a sales agent, that you keep that percentage as low as possible. So you want to try.
Could I just touch upon that? Because I think a really important thing for filmmakers to understand as well is whether the distributor is also working with an aggregator or a distribution platform, because then the fees stack up. So there are distributors that will charge you a 30-40% fee, and then they will put your film on Film Hub, which will take another 20% fee, and then that film will be then put onto streaming platforms. From what I understand with indie, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, or also because they're just a sales company, they might take your film and give it to a company, a post-production house, which is going to charge them for encoding and delivery thousands of dollars. So then they're going to go back and charge you for that to get that money back. Plus, they usually add something on top of that. So again, a lot of them do use aggregators because they're just sales company. Up until 5 years ago, companies couldn't actually do that themselves, but we've always done it. We've done encoding and delivery from day one. Because 15 years ago, when we first signed with Amazon and Google, we beta tested for a year before their platforms went live. And so we've been into the technology side of it. That's why I say we're kind of a hybrid, because we do the the
We
distribution.
also beta tested Tubi.
We were the very first company to have films on Tubi.
It was a company called AdRise.
Right.
And we met him. He had a startup before that failed, but then he started up a company called AdRise, and that turned into Tubi. But
Right.
so it's good to try being beta testing these guys.
So then
Awesome.
there's a distributor, there's a sales agent, there's also producers reps. And a lot of times filmmakers, they don't get this distinction between the three types. Most producers reps will just charge a flat fee up front to help you find either a sales agent or a distributor. And for someone who, say someone lives in Indiana and they know nothing about the film industry, that can be very helpful, especially on a first film, because it's nice to have a reputable producer's rep that will hold your hand. And so we have two different producer reps that we work with that can recommend films to us. And so that can be helpful, but you want to make sure you're not paying too big a fee. There are also some producers reps that are disreputable, and they not only charge a fee, but they will also take a percent. So you have to be very careful about what kind of business you're getting in business with. Excuse me, let me get a little water.
And then you got aggregator, and that's who you pay to put films up.
Right, and then there are aggregators like a Bitmax or a Premiere Digital, and you pay them to put your movie up on platforms. If you have a great marketing machine and you really know what you're doing, it might be okay to do that. And some people that have made a lot of films to prefer to work that way. But now we're seeing even those companies are starting to take a percent. So, so there's that. But go back to what you were talking about. So the first thing is the term. The second thing is the percentage that are you going to pay. The third thing to really watch is expenses. We don't charge expenses, but most companies do. I think we're the only company left that doesn't charge expenses. And so there's different types of expenses. There's encoding and delivery expenses. There's marketing expenses. There's advertising and marketing expenses. A lot of sales agents and distributors will charge you per market. In other words, they might have a market cap of $15,000 to take you to Cannes, to the market, or to take you to the American film market. And so they're going to charge you and every other filmmaker that they're bringing to the market that much money. And that's how they have to do it, because that's how they pay to go to the market, So a lot of, these companies have been around for many, many years, and they have overhead. They have big offices in Beverly Hills or wherever, and they have, lots of employees and warehouses still filled with DVDs. And so they have these big overheads that they have got to charge expenses for. And so we're fortunate that we started in the digital age, and we only have 5 people working for us. So it's a very small company, but we're able to handle all the technology ourselves. We have super high speed internet. We're 1,000 megabytes up and down. And so we can deliver and handle everything in a very lean manner. We're also, because we have exactly the same deal for everyone, it's not complicated for us to do our accounting the way it is for a lot of companies, because companies that have a different deal for every filmmaker makes their accounting very hard. So we've tried to keep our business extremely simple and very tech oriented. And so that's worked well for us. If you do decide to sign with someone that's going to charge you expenses, you want to make sure you put a cap on those expenses. And I don't recommend that anyone allows any more than like $10,000 for expenses, because it shouldn't cost any more than that. And if you just leave that open-ended, you will never see a dime, because there will always be expenses that can be piled onto that. And so that's very important. And you want to have a fairly good idea, what marketing they're going to do, for that. So you want to make sure, and those are the basic.
Is it in terms of marketing? Because what we always hear from filmmakers is, yeah, the distributors said they were going to do marketing and then they didn't do any marketing. Is that something that can actually be put into a contract, specific terms of what the distributor will do in terms of marketing?
Oh, they have to
Or is it
define
just
what marketing is. What's marketing?
Yep.
That's the one thing. I mean, this is our marketing. It's I mean, we do a lot of posts, but this is when we go to the markets. This is Screen International, and this is we run ads, but filmmakers
Very expensive full page ads.
But filmmakers don't know what marketing is. I mean, here's our book that we make. We pay for all this ourselves, but and then we have Instagram, which we're always sharing all the time. But what's marketing to a filmmaker? I mean, no distributor is going to put billboards up, all over town for your film. They're not going to run commercials on television or so. But I don't know if other distributors do all the Instagram posts that we do or things like that. So just I think filmmakers, I don't know what they expect with the marketing, but I can tell you for us, we do all the marketing at the conferences, the film markets. We have an Instagram page that we're always updating. I'm the one that's doing that. And YouTube channel, Facebook. So, and that's really the only places you can really, I mean, filmmakers need to be doing that too. And they need to do it all the time. They need to almost, I think sometimes filmmakers get scared that they're going to scare off their audience by posting too much. But I think you have to do that.
Well, and one mistake I think filmmakers make, they just keep posting their trailer over and over and over again. And then people are going to block you. You need to be always making little clips from the movie. You can easily make 300 or 400 little clips from poignant moments from your movie. It's easy. It's so simple to make these things. You can make them on your phone. So you don't have to be boring with your posts, but you do have to post a lot. Other things that we do, we have a private community of all of our filmmakers, and we have over 800 filmmakers now. And that group is a private group just for us, and we support each other with reviews and resources. And that community that we've built is very, very powerful. And so also we have filmmakers that have built huge communities online. We have one filmmaker who has built a Tubi and Amazon marketing page on Facebook that's got almost 1 million members and followers to it. So it's amazing. So all of our filmmakers go there and post. And
back to the review though, when you review somebody's film, you have to actually watch it, because Amazon and everybody knows that if you're watching it or not. You can't just go and, especially for Amazon, you can't just say it's a great movie. IMDb,
and IMDb is owned by Amazon, so IMDb also knows if you've watched the movie on Amazon and so on, right?
It's very important to have a high rating, because when we pitch films to Pluto, they want to know the IMDb rating, and I know that can get kind of sometimes somebody can go on there and put a lot of 1 stars, but IMDb is a very important,
and also Rotten Tomatoes. And so we coach all of our filmmakers how to maintain their IMDb scores, their Rotten Tomatoes scores, and how important reviews are to get on Amazon. Rotten Tomatoes will build a page for you, because an individual is not going to get one. It used to be that if you had a theatrical, you would automatically get one. But we have a great relationship with Rotten Tomatoes, and so we get pages for all of our filmmakers.
And I would love to pick your brains a little bit more on this marketing aspect, because you guys have, 1,500 films and you've got all these filmmakers who chat to each other in this private community. So there must be a lot of different ideas floating around as to how you can creatively market your film. Because what I find is that most filmmakers, they're really creative when it comes to making the film, but suddenly when it comes to marketing, the creativity just goes out the window and it's right, let's just post really boring content. And I'm wondering whether you can share any stories that are, original marketing campaigns that filmmakers have done, that you know of, where it was like, oh, that's different, that's new, that was a great little guerrilla, stunt marketing campaign that someone did, which got the word out about their film.
Um, the only kind of exciting one really that I've seen is when we premiere a movie we have a YouTube channel, an AVOD YouTube channel. It works just like Tubi. You get paid for every ad that's seen. And when we premiere a movie on YouTube, it's a live event and it's like a theatrical event.
Yeah.
And
so we have a film called The Seeds, and I always when I put a film up on Amazon and then Google Play and then Tubi, Fossum, that's kind of the order I do them. But I also put it up on our YouTube channel. So, and I usually do a premiere 6 months out so that we can do the TVOD and then the AVOD for the bigger platforms, and then go to a market usually. And then after we do all that, we've kind of exploited what we think we can do with the film from that point on. Then we put it on YouTube, and I mark a premiere. And most of the time people don't take advantage of this, but the filmmaker for The Seeds took advantage of this. It came out on a Sunday morning, and he had all of his friends and family. He lives in Wichita. They all got onto went to the premiere and started talking in the chat box.
It's an actual live event.
And it started swelling, and like we had thousands of people watching it, and I never saw that before. And that film did really well, because what that does is that tells YouTube that this is a really good, popular video, and they start recommending it to other people. And that film's done very well in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, it did $50,000 in a very short period of time.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
So
that's really great.
Yeah.
I find one story that I love to share about a filmmaker, the filmmakers behind the film Host, where they were doing a film festival circuit. And, most filmmakers, when they have their film screened at a film festival, it goes the same with sort of self-distribution or distribution, when they're marketing films. Most filmmakers just go to the film festivals and they just kind of go and they show up and they leave, and no one really remembers them or the film. Yeah. But they decided to do something different. They decided to do something that was going to be memorable. And basically at the end of their screening slot, all the directors were invited on stage to do a panel discussion. And in the film, there's this storyline that if you create a ring of salt around you, it will protect you from the demons or whatever that was. And basically the director came on stage after all the other directors came on and sit down. The director of Host came up on stage with a bag of salt, and he created a ring of salt around his chair, and then he sat down with a dead serious face, and everyone was talking about it for the rest of the film festival. And here I am 5 years later talking about this story. And that is that great idea of like this outbound marketing, where inbound marketing, whereas outbound marketing, you have to go and promote and promote and promote. Inbound marketing, you can create something that's going to get people to promote the film for you and talk about you. Yeah, you have to do something that's memorable. So I love these type of stories which show filmmakers you can actually have a lot of creativity without spending money when it comes to marketing, which is really interesting.
That's why these marketing groups that filmmakers are setting up and building these huge communities around, their films and their friends' films and the people that get involved in those groups. It's really, really powerful, because a Facebook page really doesn't do much for you anymore. It's kind of replaced a website to have this Facebook movie page, but Facebook groups are extremely powerful.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I've seen that as well.
We really encourage that.
I also want to ask you a question. I mean, we talked a little bit about user reviews on Amazon and IMDb and so on. What about professional reviews in terms of, getting bloggers to write about you, YouTubers? And what I'd like to sort of point out with this is most filmmakers who go out and they try to get these professional reviews, usually the email back that they get is would be $50 or $100 for a guaranteed or an expedited review. And the question is, have you guys seen that it's worth the cost to get these professional reviews? Do filmmakers in your group talk about these and whether they're effective or not?
I don't really think it's a good idea to pay for reviews. There are certain techniques that we teach our filmmakers when it comes to getting Rotten Tomato reviews. The Rotten Tomato reviews are the most important because also some of the platforms are asking for Rotten Tomato scores too. So what we do is we teach filmmakers to find films that are similar to theirs that are very successful and pull those up on Rotten Tomatoes and then see who all the reviewers were for that film and then write to them. Now, the fact of the matter is, for every 20 people that you write to, you're going to get one response. That's the average. So it takes a lot of elbow grease. But I've had filmmakers say, oh, I can't get anybody to do it. And then once they try doing it that way, they'll get 20, 30 reviews. We have tons of filmmakers that have 100% Rotten Tomatoes. And it's because they're very selective about who they write to. And that's the best way, is to find similar films. If you have a horror film that's about vampires, go see who reviewed and make sure the film's not too old. And always, Rotten Tomatoes is smart. They publish a list of all of the critics that are approved for Rotten Tomatoes. And I wouldn't, focus on too much else other than ones that are approved for Rotten Tomatoes. Now, there are specialty podcasts, but most of those podcasts have critics that are approved on Rotten Tomatoes, and they're all listed on their website. So check and make sure who you're writing to, and maybe you can get, if you've got several people in your crew that might be willing to help you do it, because it's a lot of work, but it's worth doing. And when you, where's the book? Yeah. So when we go to the market, we have always put in here a tomato if you've got your good Rotten Tomato reviews. It helps. People look at reviews; they just do.
Absolutely.
Buyers, that they're exposed to thousands of films at a market. So what you have to think of what's going to set your film apart from other films. And so any attention you can draw to it is worthwhile.
Mm. We talked a bit about social media as a marketing tool, having a YouTube channel, user reviews, professional reviews, Facebook groups. Is there anything that we missed in terms of, tools, strategies, platforms that filmmakers can use to help market their film?
I'm not thinking so much of marketing, but something that we haven't talked about that is really starting to surface is like AI tools and dubbing. And we at the past two markets, we've been approached by many companies that now offer really very, very reasonably cost dubbing. Dubbing, it used to cost like between $10,000 and $20,000 to get a film dubbed. Well, there are companies now that are doing it for under $1,000, $600-$700 to dub a film, which is really, really reasonable. Then also there's a couple of things going on in the marketplace right now that's very interesting. Because we've been partners with Amazon for so long, we were invited to participate in their beta testing of their dubbing, and they are now dubbing our films, started with Spanish, and making that available on Amazon Prime. So, like, if you want to see a good example of that, there's a film called Long Lost, and if you look on Amazon, you can see there's a choice of watching it either in Spanish or in English. And so
It's really good too.
it's human with AI assist or AI assist with human touch, and they're doing an incredible job. So now filmmakers have a choice. They can either get their film dubbed, or they can wait and see if Amazon's going to dub it for them. The problem with Amazon, it's not a problem, but Amazon is not going to give us a copy of that dub version, so it will only live on Amazon. Whereas some of the other companies that we're working with, they're giving us a copy of the dubbing that they're doing and then sharing the revenue with us in the territories where that dubbed version is going. And that's just opening up the world to us. So we now on our YouTube channel, you can see a film called Surrogate that's been dubbed into Spanish, and it's doing really well. In a couple of days, it's made way more than it's made on some of the domestic platforms in the United States. So this, I think, is a whole new world opening up and expanding, the opportunities. And then once you have it in a foreign language, then that expands where you can do your marketing. Because you can specify where you're marketing, you can target your marketing.
That's really great. Yeah. Fantastic. And on that note, is there other trends that you see or other big shifts that you envision sort of happening in the next couple of years in the distribution industry? We've seen AVOD become really popular over the last couple of years. I believe it's still increasing in popularity, really. Do you see any other trends happening in the next couple of years? Sort of whether to do with distribution or marketing or anything else?
Yeah, they're starting to do that.
I think AI is becoming a very important tool, and it's going to help indie filmmakers make better movies for less money. We have been using a script analysis tool that's powered by AI, and it'll analyze the script and it'll tell you where there's like slow parts so that you can work on, where there's no emotion, because you want to have every scene should be moving your story forward, and it'll tell you where the weak spots are in your script, and then you can use that to help you with a rewrite. It also will scout. If you say, okay, I want the budget of this film to be $500,000, it will go through IMDb and it will find and recommend 5 actors for each part that you could get for that budget. It's amazing, and it also will find comps, because if you are looking for investors to invest in your film, right, you want to be able to show them comps. Well, it's so difficult to go through and find comps yourself. It's a very, very difficult task. But this software will go in and find comps for your movie based on your movie. So those types of tools are, they're just going to get better and better. And, that's I think, really important.
Yep. We've got a couple of questions from the audience. Actually, the first one. Sorry, what is this? What is this platform that you were talking about for finding the comps and so on?
Largo AI. It's called Largo AI.
Largo AI.
Yeah.
Largo.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Cool. Now we had a couple of questions over here about indie rights, what genres and percentage age and so on you accept. Are there any restrictions, basically, just to kind of summarize all the questions into one? Are there any types of films that you don't accept at the moment in terms of genre types of films?
We look at all films. We'll take a look at every film. We don't take shorts because we can't do anything with shorts. We're right now we're staying away from most foreign films. No erotic, because we can't do anything with that. Sometimes people want to sell that to us. What else?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're open to any kind of films. If you look on our website, you'll see we have films of all genres.
Yeah.
The minimum length is 70 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So it does need to be a feature. And we make it really easy. You can just go right to our website, and there's a button on the distribution page that says Submit Now. And it lets you, asks you for a link to your film and asks you a whole bunch of questions, about you and your film, because we want to know, it has to be more than a good film. we have to know that you are open to doing marketing. If somebody says, "Oh, I'm not on Facebook and I don't like social media marketing," we're never going to take that film because they're never going to be able to connect with their audience. So it's, we ask important questions. We want to know, what are your expectations? If somebody says, "Oh, I want to make $10 million," so we're probably not going to take that film either.
Okay, that's really interesting. Seeing if there's any other questions over here. All right. And do you accept films all year round, or are there specific periods of the year when you accept new films?
All the
year
time.
round, right?
I just want to thank you for inviting us, because it's really important for filmmakers to think about distribution really early on.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for coming in, for being so transparent, honest, and also detailed in all of your responses. It's, much appreciated. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We hope you enjoyed the episode and advice. If you want us to keep bringing you more guests, all we ask for is one simple favor. Subscribe to our channel wherever you're listening. By doing that, you help us reach more filmmakers like you, and in turn, we can keep delivering the tools you need to succeed. So please hit that subscribe button and let's keep this journey going together.